Okay, welcome back, everyone. We will now continue with the teaching. Thank you very much, Geshe, for teaching us.
Okay, welcome you all back to the second session. We will recite the Refuge Verse and followed by either mantra. Mare, Sangha. Okay. I'll go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I'll go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I'll go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Ye Dharma. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Tathagato Yavatat Tesham Chayo Niroda Evam Vati Mahashramana Swaha. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Tesham Tathagato Yavatat Tesham Chayo Niroda Evam Vati Mahashramana Swaha. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Tathagato Yavatat Tesham Chayo Niroda Evam Vati Mahashramana Swaha. Okay, we are on stanza 127. This is going to be a little complicated, meaning that you may not find it too relevant. It's just a rejection of the advocates of the self and phenomenon to be created by primal substance, or known as the Prakriti. And this is going to be a little one technical, and also that it's you may not find it too relevant. And many of us who come for these teachings, usually they come with some expectations that I can practice directly. And then here is more like philosophical discussions. This says, yes, we can understand it. At the same time, that for many, when these discussions are there, one, they couldn't follow this, number one. Number two, even if they could follow, they are feeling of like resentment inside your mind that what is all this? So that comes, and it just makes you to, to stay away from this discussion, because the feeling is unpleasant feeling. And with unpleasant feeling, the intention is to push the what creates this unpleasant feeling. So this is why this is happening. In fact, I'm sharing this because I can see this happening. One, from my personal experience, my own personal experience, when I was way younger and so impatient, I want to become enlightened right now. And then studying these texts, oh, what is this? Primal substance, who cares? The point is that I should become enlightened right now. Teach me something which is directly relevant to my practice. Becoming so impatient. And so later on, learning the Buddhist psychology, how the emotion, transformation in emotion. This is extremely beautiful psychology, the Buddhist psychology about the 5 omnipresent mental factors, how these 5 omnipresent mental factors, they operate, and on the basis of which, then some people can become really very rude, cruel. Some people can become extremely compassionate, loving, and some people can become very intelligent. Some become, they go down. The intelligence decline. It's all on the basis of these 5 omnipresent mental factors operating. And also 3 are very crucial. 3, number 1 is of course, the immediate thing is the mind, which pushes and which pulls. That is one thing. Pushes and pulls. That is the attachment, aversion, or in virtuous sense, like aspiration for dharma and aversion for dharma. And that is the pull and push, intention, feeling of the mental factor of intention. That mental factor of intention is determined by the feelings. Number 2, mental factor of feeling. Then mental factor of feeling, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, without them. Say dharma, and the pleasant feeling comes, you feel like embracing it. Dharma, unpleasant feeling comes, then you stay away from dharma. Okay, so dharma. And then with the mundane world, mundane things like cheesecake, or the mobile, the iPhone, the 13, and so forth. Then the pleasant feeling comes, you just look for ways and means how I can get it. And then this neutral feeling. So what again, most likely in 1 or 2 years time, again iPhone 14 will come. So what's a great deal of this? And whereas in some people, there's a feeling of aversion can come with iPhone 13, that what is this? Just a marketing strategy, just to extract money from the people. And they stimulating their feelings, and then making them to go for this intention to embrace it. Embracing means let go of your money. So this is a marketing strategy. So some people, they feel that this is so evil how people do the marketing strategy, use the marketing strategy to excite the attachment of the people, and then let them sacrifice their money, and then you become richer. So this is what, and at the same time, the CEOs of these companies, like mobile companies, they're really going through a tough time. They are really going through a tough time. I met one CEO the CEO of one mobile company, and he was brought to me by one of my friends. And then looking at him, what he was telling me was that his mind does not rest even for a second in the waking state, in the daytime, in the nighttime. The mind is so busy going here and there, cannot settle. And why? I asked, why this happening? And he said that we need to have 2, 3, 4 the models and ready. So iPhone 13 is now, 14, 15, 16 should be already ready in our mind, because there's a competition happening from the other companies. So what should be done? How do make it something different, and so that we can get more money from the customers. So this mind is so busy, and then it becomes you can really control, out of control. It becomes out of control. Okay, so on the finally it is, look, there's of course the CEO is not really deliberately to abuse other people, corrupt. No, this is not the point. This is how the system can be. So what do you do? Yeah, some people will be in this position, some people will be in that, and it is there. And then the point is that this is the system. So with this, the point is that with the good things like dharma, how say aspiration to dharma arises, how aversion to dharma also arises on the basis of the feelings. And then with the mundane things, how the attachment comes to arises with respect to the objects, and how aversion arises with respect to the objects, again on the basis of the feelings. And these feelings are determined by the the discrimination, mental factor of discrimination. And this mental factor of discrimination is determined by the attention and the contact. What is the contact and the attention? That is to get information. If you get more information, if you come in contact with more information, then you can process it more. You have more things to be processed, and paying attention process with this, your discrimination can become very broad and profound. Broader the discrimination, more rich the discrimination, more profound the discrimination, the feeling becomes extremely subtle, stable, and grounded. With this, then the intention to go after the object or go away from the object, it becomes very stable and grounded, not easily wavered by any external factors. So this is extremely beautiful psychology. And in fact, in many of the psychology, I say the universities with the psychology department, when they invite me to give talks, when I just give talk on these 5 omnipresent mental factors, how the emotions they come into being, how to deal with emotions, how to bring the emotional health on the basis, then this is something really, the people really see that this is an incredibly great tradition. So that's a Nalanda tradition. It's a beautiful tradition. Okay, so the point is that if you study these texts more, like, although these are a little technical and may not be directly relevant to your part, now what is dharma? Dharma doesn't mean a very narrow mind become enlightened. No, dharma means where your mind becomes very broader, and deeper, that you see the deepest and the broadest. That is enlightenment. That is the dharma. The process to make it happen is the dharma. So therefore, even studying this, just keep in mind that this is in real terms a part of my dharma, to broaden my mind. And they say in Aramatriya's text, Abhisamaya Alankara, there's the mention of the Note of the Paths, the Bodhisattvas, which we read this morning. They appreciate to the 3 mothers. The 3 mothers referring to the mental qualities of the Shravakas Buddhas, and the mental quality of the Bodhisattvas, and the mental quality of the Buddhas. These 3 mental qualities allowing them to fulfill their aspiration. And Shravakas and Buddhas, their aspiration is to achieve the final peace, ultimate peace, the final peace where the mind rests in total peace without being affected by any external factors. The Bodhisattvas, their aspiration is to fulfill the aspirations of the beings, to guide them, to give them the guidance, to teach them the path, to show them the paths, how to achieve their respective aspirations. For the Buddhas, it is to turn the wheel of Dharma. And what makes the Buddha turn the wheel of Dharma is the omniscient mind. What makes the Bodhisattvas accomplish the aspiration to they guide the other beings to their respective aspirations or the goals is the knower of the paths. Knower of the paths, which means that one should know all the different paths. Although the paths can be wrong, you have to know that the wrong path, so that later on when somebody is going to the wrong direction, you can say that this is wrong. I know this. So we have to know all these things. There's no harm. Not only that, there's no harm. This is how you can best be involved to help others and accumulate merit for yourself. And finally, the accumulation merit, accumulation wisdom. These two will serve as the 2 wings for you to cross the ocean of samsara and to cross the ocean to the other shore of the full awakening. Okay. So with this in mind, this is going to be, what we're going to read is little technical, but bear with me. And okay, so we have, the point is that till 150, till 149, let's say 150, that requires technical studies. And then from 150 down to like 167, I think, till 167, that is easy. That doesn't require much explanation. It is very simple. So we have to work work a little harder till 149. Okay, so we have only a few stanzas left now. And then we have still another week, another 4 sessions. For that, we'll see whether to do a little bit of going deeper into the meditation emptiness, and something those related to the emptiness, meditation emptiness, that we will do. Okay, so now the Samkhya's presentation. Samkhya is one of the traditions. Within the Samkhya, there are 2 Samkhyas. Samkhya meaning a philosophical tradition, one of the classical Indian, ancient Indian philosophical tradition. Nowadays, do we really find people who believe in these traditions? In India, this is very strange. In India now, most of these traditions, they become like academic studies. Most of these traditions. We don't really see people or the followers actually following these traditions. So less nowadays. So less. And some Vedanta is left. Otherwise, most are they not really there. Okay. For Samkhyas, what they believe is that the Samkhyas, they believe in a creator in the form of, I think we discussed a little bit in the first part of the course, the earlier, what do you call it, the first, and then this is the second part. So they believe in a creator, which is, again, it's, they really give a thought to it, very serious thought. It's not just like a belief. What they say is that saying there's a creator God, creator, they call it creator, and this creator, create everything else except himself and the persons. The persons are not created by him, and he himself cannot create. Otherwise, the rest, for example, your body, your mind, then the heat, and then the AC, and the cold, and the heating system, hunger, and the food, and the body code, and the clothes, and the dangers, the dangers from the wild animals, the dangers from the rain and so forth, and the houses. All these are created. So the opposites were all created by this to trap us in samsara. This beautiful concept, to trap us in samsara. And same as if we're hungry, then you will not meditate. You will run to look for the food. You're busy with the food. And then when you don't have house, again, you're busy constructing a house. So therefore, this is how we are constantly trapped in samsara. So these are all created by the creator. Creator, they call it prakriti. Prakriti, a primal substance. And what is this primal substance? They dare to explore this. They do not say that, oh no, this is blasphemy. If you ask what is primal substance, what is this creator? If you ask this is blasphemous. No. Yes, you can ask this. What is this primal substance? What is this creator? So they inquired, what is primal substance or the creator? And they said that this creator is made of 3 components. There are 3 basic components. When these 3 basic components, known as the dul, mun, nyingdop, dul is the substance, the particles, mun is the darkness, element of darkness, and the element of sattva, element of courage. So there are 3 elements there. These 3 elements, when in harmony, that is a prakriti. That's the one which creates all the phenomena except the prakriti himself and this self, the persons. And when these 3 things, so when you make the flower, then something should become the flower. What is that something? These 3 components from the prakriti, these 3 components in imbalanced form, then it takes the form of flower, house, car, food, body, chairs, and so forth. And the universe, the world, planet Earth, and so forth. These things come into being when these 3 things are in an imbalanced state. When in balanced state, that is the Prakriti. Okay, this is the position. Then they say everything, like the clothes that we have, and also that's true. That and these three things, they are given these technical terms. Say the one is particle, number two is the particle, then the element of darkness, element of courage, three. And these three are also in the form of the feelings. One is pleasant feeling, neutral feeling, unpleasant feeling, three. So these three in combination, in a balanced state, this is Prakriti or the creator. And when in imbalanced state, become the manifestations. So the Prakriti creates all these things for us. And we're just engrossed in these. We're just so infatuated, engrossed, lost in these. And then the Prakriti is very happy. Okay, now these, the beings, the people, the beings, okay, I don't really have to, worry about them. They're already distracted by these, what I've created. For example, the small children. If you give the small children child is disturbing you in your work, then you give some chocolate or you give some toy, interesting toy, and the child is distracted by the toy, and there's no danger that child will go outside on the fire and so forth. Then you feel relaxed, you do your work. So this is how it is described by the Samkhyas, that the Prakriti he feels happy that now these people, they are distracted by what I've created, so I didn't really worry about these things. Then suddenly what happened was that there are some of the people out of the innumerable beings who are being distracted by what the Prakriti created. Out of these, few of them, through receiving teachings, through meditation, they come to get some spiritual realizations, samadhis, meditative realizations. With these meditative realizations, then they get the power to read the mind of other people. And these people, they come to not only read the mind of other people, they come to also read the mind of read the intention of the Prakriti, the creator. Then the Prakriti becomes really alert. The moment the Prakriti discovers that you are now on the verge to unfold his secret becomes so alert. And now the Prakriti is observing you, and you're observing Prakriti. Okay, all these what I'm experiencing, these are all the creation of this Prakriti, the creator. Then the creator feels so ashamed that somebody has disclosed my secret of trapping the beings in samsara. So Prakriti is sensing that you are seeing the reality of the Prakriti's secret. Then the Prakriti quickly withdraws, pulls back all his manifestations, like body, your house, your clothes, the vegetations, chairs, tables, whatever you have, like the food, medicines, illness, everything, pull back. What is left? Only the self is left. Self meaning you, the I, without the body. So with no body, your life is very easy. Believe it or not, each one of us, we spend minimum 99% of our time, resources after our body. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Yeah, that's almost 99%, right? 99% of our energy, resources. Your house is for this body. Your AC is for this body. The food that you're eating is for this body. All the shopping is for this body. Clothes, food, so forth. And the medicine is for this body. What else do we do besides, to maintain this body? What? Dharma studies. That's good. That is something in the qualified, in the 0.01 something. Otherwise 99% of our time, resources, and many people, they said, oh, I have no time for Dharma. I have to do this, do that. What do this, is all for this body. 100% all for this body, right? And the Prakriti, when he pulls your body, aging, sickness, death, all gone. No hunger, no thirst. You don't have to woke up. You don't have to get up at get up and go the 9 to 5. No need. 9 to 5 is what? The food, the bills. You don't worry about the bills. So all these are withdrawn, and the self alone is left with no sickness, no aging, no death, no tension, nothing. That the self alone is left. At that point, you are liberated. This is Samkhya's version of liberation. Okay, and many of the refined Buddhist scholars, they say that except that the Samkhyas believe that this self is the permanent, unitary, independent. This is what they believe. Otherwise, this concept is very similar to the concept of nirvana is very similar to that of the Madhyamikas concept of nirvana. That's where we speak about the Nagarjuna's verse, which reads, which we already read this morning, the first session. It reads, independent origination. Mare, shoge kangi denji dewashu. Independent origination. Good, thank you. Okay. Independent origination. There is no ceasing, no arising. Look, when you experience emptiness, when you subject, what are all your problems? What are all your problems? All our problems are related to ceasing and arising. Say, in my case, they say white hairs. When I was younger, their hair is totally black. Now the hair is becoming white. White hair is arising, and black hair is ceasing. How many agree with me? Good. And then your youth is ceasing, and old age is arising. And then your say some people, they get the gold medal for the Olympic competitions. So there, okay, I become the world record holder, rising. And then somebody else about to, a younger one comes. Now your world record is ceasing. This is all. So just as this morning, when we subject the self to ultimate analysis, the self dissolves. The basis of the self, the basis of all these phenomena, the self dissolves. And likewise, the ceasing and arising, which define the universe, your being, the state of your mind, your existence, your happiness, your suffering, which define all, which underscore the ceasing and arising, which underscore the whole phenomenon of the universe. When you subject these two to ultimate analysis, these two dissolve. Then sickness, aging, death, tension, they all dissolve because they fall under the category of the ceasing and arising. They dissolve. So, no annihilation, no permanence, no coming, no going. Coming and going is again a problem. Say people who you don't love, they come to your company, they come to, become your neighbor, you feel agitated. Those who you love, they go away, you feel agitated, you feel sad. No separateness, no sameness. And some countries, they said that, even the people, we say, okay, two of us will be together, sameness. And then the others say, no, there's a problem. Some say that, no, we will be separate, we'll divorce. And then say, no, there's a problem. So again, sameness, separateness, these are all what demarcate our existence in this world. So, and in the world, and on the global level, say some countries, they say we are one country. Some say, no, we are different countries. In Germany, East Germany, West Germany, we two are one country, break the wall, Berlin Wall, break it, they celebrate. They become one, they celebrate. And some, they say that, no, we are separate countries. And then when they become separate, they celebrate. When they're one, no human rights, this is annexation, all these. So this is all about separateness and sameness. So we see that there are eight the phenomena here, identified here. When you see that these are all like dream, all projected by one's own mind, then all our problems dissolve the way the Samkhya presented. And you abide in this experience where all these problems dissolve. At that point, I prostrate to the consummate Buddha, the supreme among all teachers, the one who taught this peace. Which peace? The peace where your mind is in the perception of which? Perception of the perception in the eyes of the ultimate analysis. The perception of the emptiness. In this experience, you see that all this sickness, agitation, depression, tension, they all dissolve, and you experience the ultimate peace. The one who taught this peace, which is freed of all the elaborations of sickness, aging, death, tension, depression, heat, cold, and so forth, all are dissolved. So there, at that point, you experience a peace. What is this peace? Nirvana, enlightenment, or nirvana. So the Samkhya's presentation of nirvana and the Buddhist presentation of nirvana, they are very similar, except that the Samkhya present on the self left alone, and then all other things dissolve. This is when they experience the nirvana. But in the Buddhist context, that with respect to is the change in the perspective, not change in the object, is the change in perspective. With your things exist only with respect to the perspective, not that somebody's creating it. Is in the eyes of the mind analyzing the convention, all the conventionalities exist. In the eyes of mind analyzing the ultimate, only the ultimate exists. So now you switch from the mind of the conventional analysis to the ultimate analysis, then the conventionalities all dissolve in their experience, and the ultimate alone is left. In their experience, even the ultimate, we call it ultimate, is left. But what is this ultimate? Which means that in their experience, the inexpressibility. The inexpressibility is left, because anything that you express, it dissolves there. So you experience the inexpressibility. So in this inexpressibility, say sickness, aging, death, anything which can disturb you, which can potentially disturb you, they all dissolve. That is nirvana. So where, including the self, with respect to your perception, even the self dissolves. Whereas according to Samkhya, this self doesn't dissolve with your perception. Everything else dissolves, including your body. So the cause of the problems, the body dissolves. So the self is liberated. So here, how Nagarjuna explains nirvana or liberation on the basis of experience of emptiness. This is so precious. And when we get a feeling that this liberation can be understood in the context of the experience of emptiness, and you seek that, may I achieve that. This is the final understanding of renunciation. So usually we talk of renunciation as, may I be free from sickness, may I be free from suffering. That's renunciation. It's a very grossly, yes, it is renunciation. It's a very gross level of the renunciation. Renunciation is two things. One is what you are renouncing from and where you are heading towards. You renounce what? You renounce the suffering towards what? Towards the fearlessness, state of the fearlessness. What is that state of fearlessness? This state of fearlessness is in the experience of the emptiness, where all the fears dissolve. Where all the fears dissolve with respect to your perception. With respect to your, it's not that, for example, they say my body, it has the bodily, say, ailment, and say then the meditate emptiness, and I see the emptiness directly, and say that I'm to achieve nirvana now. And in that experience, so with respect to my perception of the world, this body dissolves. This the body ailment also dissolves. But it doesn't mean that my body ailment is dissolved and now my body is fit and fine and now going back to the young body. No. So this body in a meditative state, this is a reality with respect to the mind analyzing the convention. But with respect to mind analyzing the ultimate, it's not the reality. Mind analyzing the ultimate, the absence of that in the ultimate domain, that is a reality. That is what this mind is experiencing. So in that experience, in the what is seen ultimately, in the ultimate, sickness, aging, death, tension, depression, everything dissolves. The person self-dissolves, everything dissolves in that experience. So at that point, all your agitations dissolve. So lack of agitation, lack of disturbance is a peace. It's the ultimate peace. And if you gain confidence to remain in that state forever, that is the ultimate peace. Whereas the arahats, they may not be able to stay in this experience for too long. They stay there, again, they have to come out. They have to come out. Whereas the Buddhas, they abide in this experience eternally long. So they experience this, they say, actualization and experiencing this nirvana 24/7 happens alongside the mind's capability to reach out to all the beings simultaneously. Okay, so this we have to know. And this understanding, then in the experience of emptiness, all your sickness, aging, death, tension, depression, anxiety, anguish, lamentation, bewilderment, they all dissolve. Finally, the disturbance, all disturbance dissolve. So may I achieve that experience of the emptiness, where all my disturbance dissolve. This aspiration, may I achieve that. That is the ultimate understanding of the renunciation. Okay, good. Now, so this is the background. With this in mind, going to 127, production from permanent substance. For Samkhyas, the universal constituents, they are known as, okay, say their Prakriti is a creator, and this creator is made of three universal constituents. Three universal constituents, meaning that there are three components or the constituents which subsume or which underscore all existences. The universal constituents consist of three. They are known as courage in Sanskrit, sattva, and in terms of experience, it is the pleasure. And the particles, number two is particle, and Sanskrit rajas, and experience-wise, it is pain. And then the number three is the darkness, Sanskrit tamas, and feeling-wise, neutral feeling. So these three things, the courage, particle, and darkness. So these are the universal, the components universally existent in all things. Okay. When abiding in balance, when these three things are in balance, it is called as primal substance or the Prakriti, the creator of the universe. While the imbalance is said to be the migrators or the manifestations. When the imbalance, then it manifests in the form of the flowers. This Prakriti, when the Prakriti sees that you are sick, then the Prakriti will distract you, so that you will not try to get rid of the miseries. So they will distract you by giving you a hospital or nearby pharmacy and so forth. So that is these are manifested. So these manifestations, they are the imbalanced state of the three component universal constituents. 1 to 8. But it is illogical for a partless unity to have a threefold nature. At the same time, these are all the logical inconsistencies. While they accept that even this Prakriti is the constituted of these three, the universal constituents, but they say that this Prakriti is a permanent entity and a partless entity. Say on the one side, they are saying that it is partless. On the other side, it says that it is composed of the three universal components in balance. If there are three, it is not partless. This is a contradiction. But of course, let's keep in mind that there's one Tibetan scholar, a great Tibetan, brilliant, a genius Tibetan scholar, maybe 20th century. Yeah, 20th century. He was alive in 1950s. Yeah. And he was brilliant, he was really a genius. Yeah. Gendun Chimbel. His name is Gendun Chimbel. And what he said was that, so here we see that contradictions, they were all, just shown as like, like the opponents. They are, they what they accept is something, is something very, very crude, very gross. And what he said is that if you really meet with these scholars, because he was very open-minded, great scholar, open-minded, and he traveled to India way before Tibet was annexed by the common Chinese, way before that. He traveled to India, Sri Lanka, when the Tibetans were all just, they engrossed inside Tibet, not going out at all. And he was very open-minded. He started to travel around. And he saw India, and he met with the Indian, say the tradition holders in those days, like Samkhya tradition holders. So coming back, he said that in the text, we reject them so easily, but if you really meet with the tradition holders, we should be, we're not sure if you can really reject very easily as how we reject them in this text. Okay. But these texts, they're coming from not the Tibetan masters' commentaries. They are from this is Bodhisattva Shantideva's text, which these debates were happening in those days. Okay. Now these debates are more just for the sake of our own personal growth. That's it, not for the purpose of defeating somebody else. Okay, 1 to 8. But it is illogical for a partless unity to have a threefold nature. Which means partless unity, that is the primal substance or the prakriti, the creator, to have threefold nature. Saying that it is partless is sometimes saying that it is made of three components. Therefore, it does not exist. Therefore, the partless entity as a prakriti cannot possibly exist, because it should, according to their own philosophy, should be composed of three universal components. Likewise, the universal constituents cannot be truly existent, because each of them also has three aspects. For example, say the first one, let's say the particle. They call it a particle. Even this particle, because it exists, it should be made of the three components. So which means that, again, it is also made of parts. It's not partless. On the other hand, they say that these three components, they are partless, and when they become the prakriti imbalance, they are partless. It's a partless entity, permanent, unitary, and independent entity. So even there one can see the inconsistency. 1 to 9. And in the absence of the universal constituents, if you are able to reject the universal constituents, their position of the universal constituents, the three components, in the absence of the universal constituents, the true existence of sound and the rest becomes very far-fetched, meaning that then you accepting the other manifestations which are made of the three, because the constituents are missing. So the world cannot be there, like the sound and so forth. You cannot accept these things. Moreover, it is impossible for flesh and so on to exist in non-sentient clothing and the like. And let's say that your clothes, they don't have the same, they don't have the mind, they don't have the sentience, they don't have the feelings. So how can they have the pleasure, pain, and the element of the pleasure, pain, and the neutral? How can this be possible to exist in non-sentient clothing and so on? Okay, the pleasure here is of the three components. The three components with, in the aspect of the feelings, pleasure, pain, and neutral feeling. 130. If functional things are of the nature of if their causes referring to the three primal substances or the prakriti, well, have not functional things already been analyzed? The functional things, how they come into being by dependence on their causes, on other things, that the functional things don't exist inherently. In other words, this whole text is the text on the wisdom to see things as empty of intrinsic reality, except for prasangika. In this universe, except for prasangika, all the philosophical traditions, they believe in some form of the objective existence, some form of intrinsic existence. So that is to be rejected. And the functional things, meaning the impermanent phenomena. All these things, they don't have intrinsic reality because we already rejected. They say, number one, when rejecting the explaining the selflessness of the person, followed by explaining the selflessness of phenomena in the form of the understanding of the Four Mindfulnesses. So there, the functional things or the impermanent phenomena, we talked about the body to be impure, then the feeling to be of suffering nature, and the mind to be impermanent, and then the phenomena to be of selfless nature. So there, all these, the body, the feeling, the mind, and the rest of the impermanent phenomena, which do not fall under the first three, fall under the phenomena. So all these are proven to be empty of intrinsic reality, already there when establishing the selflessness of person, phenomena. So their functional things to be existing objectively is already rejected. 130. If functional things are of the nature of their causes meaning the three universal components, have components, therefore they exist objectively. This is what the Samkhyas are saying. Now Bodhisattva, they were saying, have not functional things already been analyzed to be empty of objective existence when we study the mindfulness of the Four Mindfulnesses? Four Mindfulnesses, rejecting all phenomena to be truly existent. In any case, the causes for you, for example, let's say your clothes, the causes for you, so your clothes and so forth, are the very pleasure and so on. According to Samkhyas, this is what he is saying. The clothes, they are made of these three components: pleasure, pain, and the neutral. So what's the problem then? The next line. But cotton clothing and the like do not arise from, say, those components: pleasure, pain, and the neutral. Because pleasure, pain, and neutral, they are in the form of the feelings, and the clothes, they don't have the feelings. 131. And pleasure and so on arise from cotton clothing and the like. And then, okay, so now one is something which we can't really understand it, like, say everything is made of these two components, which we cannot really accept it. Then, for example, when you feel cold, then you put on a warm clothing, and then this cloth or the cotton clothes or woolen clothes, lesser in the winter, it gives you a pleasant feeling. So the clothing gives rise to the pleasant feeling. If this is how you understand, as the window clothes having the three components, they give rise to these components, their pleasure and so forth. 131. And pleasure and so on arise from cotton clothing and the like. Then, since these do not exist, these meaning the clothes, they do not exist objectively. They do not exist intrinsically, as proven before, with selfless phenomena and selfless person. So they say if the cause, they say that the pleasure, pain, and the neutral feeling, these three components give rise to the clothing. This is one acceptance by some cases. And the clothing, they also give rise to the clothing is also made of these three components. These three components give rise to the next three components in the form of pleasure, pain, and so forth. So, for example, we put on clothes and you feel comfortable, pleasurable. 3. So, if that is like the sequence, say these three components give rise to the pleasure, pain, and so forth, we said no, that's not true, because these three components give rise to the clothing and so forth. That's not possible, because the clothing and so forth, they don't exist intrinsically, and they are produced from the visible the causes, and then these giving rise to the pleasure, pain, and the neutral feeling. That's also not possible because these don't exist truly. So how can they produce truly existent three universal components? Then since these do not exist, these meaning the clothing and so forth do not exist objectively, pleasure and so on as a result do not exist. Moreover, even the permanence of pleasure and so on has never been seen. And then on the one hand, they accept these three permanent substances as permanent. And Bodhisattva was saying that you are saying that these three things are there and these three things are permanent. But in actuality, in real life, we never saw a pleasure feeling as a permanent. 132. If manifest pleasure and so on are truly existent, why is they experience not perceived? Now Bodhisattva was saying that, for example, say when you're hungry, you eat cheesecake, or you eat, the falafel. You eat that, and then the first falafel is very delicious. Number 2 is also delicious, and then number 3, 4, and then 10, 20, and 30 too much. 30 you cannot eat. And if you force somebody, if you are forced by somebody, then you no have this very delicious. This is the best falafel in Israel. You eat it. Falafel means is like a fast food, Israeli fast food, or good food, delicious food. The 30th piece, it'll make you throw up. So the first piece is very delicious. There's a pleasant feeling. So this pleasant feeling, if that is permanent, as a pleasant feeling, pleasurable feeling as a primal substance, universal substance, universal constituent, if that is permanent, it should last forever. But you eat the first falafel, is very delicious, pleasant feelings there, pleasurable feelings there, and then the 20th, 30th piece, then it makes you throw up. The pleasant feeling disappears. So why is that pleasurable feeling changing if it is permanent? 132. If manifest pleasure and so on are truly existent, why is the experience not perceived? When you're eating the 30th piece, then you cannot perceive the pleasant feeling. Why is it not perceived? Suppose you say experience turns into a subtle state. So that pleasant feeling, the gross pleasant feeling, it becomes now during the 30th piece, it becomes a subtle version of the pleasurable feeling, and the gross pain manifests, and the earlier pleasurable feeling, it becomes subtle. Suppose you say the experience turns into a subtle state. Well, how can it both be gross and subtle? If it is not changing, it should remain gross. And now you are saying it's subtle, so it should be gross and subtle both. This is not possible. Then what will they say? They say, no, it's not gross. If it's not gross, it is changing. If it's changing, it is not permanent. 133. If it becomes subtle and not manifest, if it becomes subtle and not the gross or manifest, after having left its gross manifest state, these gross and subtle states are impermanent. So therefore, pleasurable, I say the pleasure, pain, and the neutral feeling in the form of the three universal constituents, they are impermanent. So why not accept all functional things as impermanent? Why do you have to accept the self as permanent, the universe, the prakriti as permanent, and these three components are permanent? Why? So why not we accept all the composite phenomena as impermanent? 134. And if the gross manifest state is no different from the pleasure itself, then a manifest pleasure is impermanent. Okay. Now, if you say that, say the grossness of the feeling and the pleasurable feeling, these two things, if these two are different, the grossness changes into subtle, but the pleasurable feeling is always there. If these two are different, then you can still say that the pleasurable feeling is the permanent, but the gross and the subtle, that is changing. That is changing. Whereas if you say that these two are not different, the pleasurable feeling and the grossness not different, then as the grossness changes into subtle, the pleasurable feeling also changes. 134. If the gross manifest state is no different from the pleasure itself, then a manifest pleasure is impermanent. Suppose you assert, but something totally non-existent in the cause could not be produced because of his non. Okay, this is they say that with all these rejections coming from Bodhisattva Shantideva, now they come up with the actual real philosophy. What's the real philosophy? Relating to cause and effect. This is very interesting. Let's say that, okay, you squeeze a handful of sand, no oil come out of that. You squeeze a handful of sunflower seeds, oil comes out of that. What's the difference? Why in the one case there's oil coming out, while in the other case there's no oil coming out? Why? Anybody? Raise hand. Liorala. Or Shahala?
Because the oil is, there is sunflower oil in the sunflower seeds. So when we squeeze the seeds, then the oil come out.
Perfect. Thank you. How many agree with Shahala? Raise hands. Okay, we all agree. That's good. If you all agree, then you should be able to respond to this. What the Samkhyas, they come up with their philosophy, and then how you agree with Shahala? In a way, it's very close to what Samkhya is saying. Samkhya says that, say, apple seed has the apple tree in it. So apple seed has apples in it. No, okay. How many believe that the Israeli apple seeds have the apples inside it? No one. You don't believe in it. Okay, how many don't believe in it? Raise hands. Okay, you don't believe in it. Okay, now what they are saying is that if there's no apple in the apple seeds, how can the apples come out of that later on? If there's no oil in it, how can no oil come out of it later on? When you squeeze it, no oil come out of it. When the oil comes out of, which means that there should be oil inside it, where you all said it. Likewise, if there's no apple inside the apple seed, how come that the apples come out later on? Okay, this is a question. Anybody who likes to respond or who agrees with?
Condition.
Who is that? Raise hands.
The cause and condition.
Oh, Charlie Lam, yes.
It's a cause and condition.
Okay, cause and condition. So which means that apple is not necessary, in order for apple to come out from the apple seed, it's not necessary that apple should be there in the apple seed. If that is the case, then for oil to come out of the sunflower seeds, there should be no oil in the sunflower seeds. Is this what you're saying? So this is their philosophy. They say that in order for the oil to come out, there must be oil in it. So in order for the person to come out of the house, there must be a person in the house. If there's no person in the house, how can the person come out of the house? So if there is no apples in the apple seed, how can the apple come out of this apple seed? Okay, how many you see these two are very parallel? See, these two reasons are very similar. Raise hands. Okay, those who raise your hands, they are more innocent, and I would say they are more honest, not innocent. They are more honest. Those who do not raise their hands, they know that this is very similar, but this is against Buddhism, so therefore I'll not say yes. Okay, this is where we need a little bit of openness in the mind, openness to be very honest, even if it is not necessarily the Buddhism, but if it makes sense. And you have to say, yes, that's very similar. Are these two identical? That I don't know. But they're very similar. Then you have to acknowledge. So if you don't acknowledge, which means that there's the element of, there's a stain of fundamentalism. Okay. So very similar. This is very similar. So what they are saying is, for a cause to give rise to a result, that result must be there in the cause. If the result is not there in the cause, how can it come out? Don't forget these two examples. One, the house. If there was no person in the house, how can the person come out of the house? Number one. If there's no oil in the oil seed, the apples, the what, sunflower seeds, how can the oil come out of that? With this, if there's no apple tree in the apple seed, then how can the apple tree come out of that? These are very similar. And so our job is to be able to say that these two are not similar. We must develop a skill to nuance, to see this, the nuance difference there, nuance difference between these 2 points. This is extremely important. This is how we grow in your intelligence. You grow in your confidence. Okay, so what it's saying here is that 134, the second, suppose you assert, but something totally non-existent. So apple tree, which is totally non-existent, something which is totally non-existent in the cause, in the apple seed, could not be produced because of its being non-existent. So if the apple tree is totally non-existent in the apple seed, then the apple tree cannot come out of this apple seed. Like, since the oil is not at all, is totally non-existent in the handful of sand, so the oil cannot come out. Suppose you assert, but something totally non-existent in the cause could not be produced, could not come out because of its being non-existent there in the seed. Okay, this is the Samkhya's very typical, the philosophy of Samkhya pertaining to cause and effect. So this is what they call as this self-production, production from the self. When the Nagarjuna is rejecting, not from self, no from another, no from both, no causelessly, things whatsoever is produced anywhere. So not from the self is the Samkhya. Samkhya's reject, Samkhya's accepting self-production. So Nagarjuna is rejecting that. Okay. 135. Even if you do not accept the production of an evident phenomena, still this is actually the case. Let's say that from the seed, from the apple seed, apple tree grows, apple tree come out of that, and then on okay. So even if you do not accept the production of an evident phenomena, still it is actually the case. And if an effect exists in its cause, then consuming food would be like eating. Okay. The food actually eventually becomes dirty excrement, and the excrement is the result of the food. If the result is in the food, if the result is in the cause, then the excrement should be in the food. So when you eat the food, you're eating the excrement. Okay. Okay. What they say is that their philosophy is that they say what is absent in the seed, in the cause, is never produced. Let's not forget it. What is absent in seed? For example, said apple seed and the apple tree. They say the apple tree is in the apple seed. But interestingly, what they say is the apple tree, they talk of apple tree in 2 ways. Apple tree, and a manifest apple tree. They said that apple tree is in the apple seed, but the manifest, what we see as growing, that is a manifest apple, the manifest apple tree. Manifest apple tree is not in the apple seed, but the apple tree is in the apple seed. Without it being in the seed, how can it come out? But that is what is there in the seed was in the non-manifest form. Okay, how many agree with this? You don't agree. Okay, Elishua agrees. Tinsumal agrees. Okay, so that not agree. Or how many agree with Samkhya, saying that any result, for a result to come out of the cause, it must be in the cause. Raise hands. Who agrees? Okay. Okay, let's say. So when that is said, the Acharya Dharmakirti, he gave the reason, he gave a logical refutation that saying and, okay, let's say that okay, what he said, I will just share with you what he said. Acharya Dharmakirti. And can still and can stand on a blade of grass. How many agree with me? Raise hands. And a tiny ant can very comfortably, easily sit on the tip of the blade of grass. But this ant dies and can take birth as elephant. And then again dies, then take elephant like 300 times. So on this tip of the blade of the grass, when the ant is sitting there, are all these 300 elephants on the tip of the grass? This is the question asked. So Surihila and Elishiva, would you say that the elephants, this tip of the grass, a very simple, we must say the grass blade, tip of the grass blade, can it support the elephant? According to Samkhya, it should, because in the end there's elephant. Because this ant is the cause of the elephant. Elephant is the result of this ant. This ant dies and the elephant is born. So this elephant should be in the ant. And where the ant sits, elephant should be there. So these contradictions were these are all the logical debates happening in those days. Okay, good. So what it says here is that even if you do not accept the production of an evident phenomenon, with the evident phenomena like, let's say that, the evident tree, apple tree, and the apple tree. So they say that apple tree is inside the apple seed. Evident apple tree is not inside the apple, the apple seed. So evident. Okay. So in a way, what they say is that evident apple tree, this was not produced from the apple seed. What is produced is apple tree is produced. Apple tree. And apple tree is inside the seed. So Bodhisattva was saying is that apple tree and the evident apple tree is the same. There's no difference. Even if you do not accept the production of the evident phenomena, still it is actually the case. And if an effect exists in the cause, then consuming food would be eating excrement. And why not buy and wear a cotton seed for less cost than the price of a cotton clothing? So nowadays, people, they have to buy very expensive Louis Vuitton and what? The Louis Vuitton and what else? The Gucci and so forth, right? And they say Louis Vuitton, I don't know what's material. So let's say the material like these, eventually like cotton, whatever. So these materials are very cheap, and then the product, they're very expensive. So if these products are in the seed, then buy the seeds. And it's like you buying the Louis Vuitton for a very cheap price. And thus you can put on you can wear the seed, because in the seed, all this cotton, all the clothes, they're all there in this seed. Okay. Suppose you say, although common people do not see it because of ignorance, that is precisely the position established by Kapila to know the reality. Okay. So what they say is that, yes, that's true. The apple tree is inside the apple seed, but the common people, they cannot see that. This is what the Samkhya is saying. And this is the position of the Kapila know the reality. So that is one of the traditions, Samkhya traditions. Now, 137, well, cognition of that must also exist in common people. So if you say that inside the tiny apple seed, the huge apple tree is inside it. Then apple tree comes out of that. But the common people, they cannot see this. Then Bodhisattva, they were saying that, no, cognition of the apple seed inside the, apple tree inside the apple seed must be there with the common people also. So why do they not see it? Their cognition should be there with them. No, they don't have the cognition. Suppose you answer, because common people are not valid cognizers. Oh, this is a very strong debate. Because the common people, what they see, okay, the apple seed does not have the apple tree inside it. Common people will say this. So this because this is their ignorance. They don't see the reality. The way the Madhyamikas would say, this is debate in Acharya Chandragiri's text. When what the common people see everything is objectively real. And nothing exists objectively real. So this is how you say the common people, their perception is not reliable. Their perception is not reliable and valid. So we also say the same thing. Common people, they don't perceive the existence of the fruits in the results in the cause. It's like you, the Prasangikas, you say the common people's perceptions, they're all invalid. Common people's perception, they're all deceptive, seeing things as objectively real. Okay, 138. Suppose you retort. Okay, 137. Well, cognition of that mind also exists in common people. So why do they not see it? Suppose you answer, because common people are not valid cognizers of that. Well, then what they see as manifest also is not true, which means that, okay, this Bodhisattva debate is very strong. So common people's perception of the reality is not valid. So then the Bodhisattva is saying that what common people see as the manifest tree, even this is also not, this is also deceptive. What is this what he's saying? Common people's perception of the tree, the seed, they're also deceptive. Because you say that common people, they don't see the reality, they are blinded by ignorance. Then even what they conventionally see should be also ignorant. 138. Suppose you retort, but you too assert, you, the Madhyamikas, you Bodhisattva, you also say that common people's perceptions, they are tainted by ignorance. You too assert that a valid cognizer for the common people is not a valid cognizer. Then wouldn't what was cognized by it also become false? And therefore, in actuality, meditation on the emptiness of functional phenomena becomes untenable. Okay, now this is a very important part. So thus far, Bodhisattva and the Samkhyas, they debate on the point that the presence of the apple tree in the apple seed is not visible. It's not visible. That is not true. So look at the common people. Common people, they don't see that. Then the Samkhyas will say that common people, don't ask the common people. They are not reliable. They don't have the valid cognition. Their perception is deceptive. Then Bodhisattva said the common people, they see themselves as sick, they are healthy, they're eating food, not eating food. They're all deceptive. Is what he's saying? The manifest phenomena, the common people seeing, they're also deceptive. Is what he's saying? So these are all contradictions. And then they would say that, okay, now it's not just my position, it is your position also, that the common people, their mind is all tainted by the self-grasping ignorance. Their mind is all tainted by having the perception of objective existence. How many agree with this? Raise your hands. Common people, their perception of the world is tainted by all 24/7, tainted by the perception of objective existence. So Samkhya, their debate is very strong. So how can you trust the common people? So if the common people say that there's no apple tree in the apple seed, don't trust them, because they are not reliable. The way you said it, where you the Bodhisattva and Acharya Chandragiri, what you are saying, that common people's mind, they are 24/7 defiled by the vision of the objective existence. Okay. Okay. Then wouldn't what was cognized by it also become false, and therefore, in actuality, meditation emptiness of functional phenomena becomes the untenable. Okay. So now the opponents, they continue by saying that then if the common people's perception, the way you are saying, you meaning you the Buddhist, are saying, particularly Madhyamaka Buddhists are saying the common people's perception, they are tainted by the perception of objective existence. Then wouldn't what was cognized by it also become false? What the common people see is deceptive. And if yes, therefore in actuality, meditation on the emptiness of functional phenomena become untenable. Then if that is the case, then they say the common people's perception is deceptive. Then the good, bad, apple tree, apple seed, they're all deceptive. If they're all deceptive, then things don't exist. If things don't exist, then your meditation on emptiness of objective existence, making this distinction. Conventionally, things exist. Ultimately, things don't exist. They all become meaningless. And also that the common people who said, oh, the Bodhisattva Shantideva is a great teacher, he meditates emptiness. Common people say this is also deceptive. Common people's perception should be deceptive. So whatever they say, whatever they think should be deceptive. So they say that, oh, this person meditated on emptiness, this is a realized being. That's also deceptive. Which means your meditation emptiness doesn't mean anything. It is totally meaningless. Okay, how many of you find this debate not so strong? Debate by the Samkhya, not so strong. Raise hands. Oh, okay, the Inbala, not strong. Inbala, this debate is not strong. Okay, raise hands. Inbala is not happy with this debate from the Samkhya. Then what else? Who else? Raise hands. Okay, and then the Tomar, Yakila, half. Okay, half meaning is quite strong.
Strong.
Oh, strong debate. Okay, okay, it's a strong debate. Raise hands. It's a strong debate. Raise hands. Oh, okay. So now, okay, what do you do now? If it becomes strong, then we study emptiness. Finally, Samkhya debated, he just rejected one line, and we all just surrendered. Okay, what do you do now? Okay, let's see. So Samkhya, what they say is that then the proposition that meditation emptiness is very important, this is meaningless, as untenable. It doesn't make any sense. 139. Okay, now the real answer comes here. If you feel that this is a strong debate, the Inbala, one or two here see that this is not a strong debate, whereas many of you feel that this strong debate. If you feel that this strong debate, then we have to follow these two lines, these two stanzas. Without having identified the object of negation, which is imputation, absence of the object cannot be apprehended. Therefore, whatever is a false object lacks entity, which clearly indicates its falsity. Okay. This is a very important stanza now. This is the response. Now, on the, okay. Ordinary people's perception. Ordinary people's perception, there are two. One is ordinary people, the farmers. They say, oh, we have to plant, we have to grow the crops, plant the crops in this season, and we, use these fertilizers, manures, and so forth. So then, the farmers, the intelligent farmers, they are the best person to know about the farming procedures. And about the paintings, the painters are the best. And about the engineering, engineers are the best. And the neuroscientists are the best, not the physicists. The elementary particles, the physicists are the best, not others. Okay, so we see that ordinary people when we say the ordinary people, their perception is tainted by the vision of objective existence, doesn't mean that all what the ordinary people see is wrong. This is not true. This is not true. They say that, okay, this is a flower. There's nothing wrong in it. Only thing is that this is a flower. Meanwhile, appearance-wise, there is a mistake there. The flower appears as objectively real. But what it apprehends is it apprehends a flower, not the objective flower. Let's not forget it. The ordinary people can view the flower as objectively real, view the flower as a flower, but appearance-wise is always tainted in the appearance level. In the appearance level, things are all tainted for the ordinary beings. But on the apprehension level, it may not be tainted. This distinction must be made. So in this connection, okay, this Bodhisattva is meditated to emptiness, set by ordinary person. That's fine. What's wrong with that? It doesn't mean that whatever it thinks is wrong. No. So that is what is known as a valid cognition. Ordinary people's mind, ordinary people have the valid cognition. But with respect to the objective existence, ordinary people cannot be the reliable person, because they cannot decide whether things exist objectively or not. Whether they exist flower or not, they can decide. But they cannot decide whether flower exists objectively or not. So this distinction must be made. The flower exists, but the objective flower does not exist. This distinction must be made. And on this basis, you can say that ordinary people are valid. They have valid cognition with respect to the flower, with respect to their own expertise. But with respect to the objective existence, they are not the reliable person. They are not the legible person to decide, to take decision whether it exists or not. So the Bodhisattva Shantideva, Madhyamika, when they say that all the perception of ordinary people, they are 24 hours tainted, which means that in terms of appearance, they are tainted. In terms of apprehension, they may not be tainted. Okay, this distinction should be made. Whereas this is another thing that I'd like to share with you is that that things exist by the power of the mind. Things existing by the power of the mind, and this can be understood on various levels, and that's very strange. When I was doing my studies in IBD, Institute of Buddhist Study Texts, and also in Damdul Monastery, and what do we study in Abhidhamma Kosh? No, Pramanavartika, and of course Madhyamika Avartha, that is the main text. And the otherwise from Pramanavartika, what we study, we just took for granted that, okay, these are the. But later on, when I was attending some conferences, meeting with the scholars, real bright scholars from the Theravada tradition, when I meet with these, the bright scholars, really the top-notch scholars from there, then I see that how things come to being by the part of the imputation. That is something extremely clearly explicated by the Nalanda traditions, Nalanda masters, which we took for granted. Even what you find explained in Pramanavartika, this is not according to Madhyamika philosophy, but even that, with this, many problems in the Buddhist philosophy can be resolved, which the scholars, real top-notch scholars from the Theravada tradition, even they cannot really have, even they don't have this idea of how things come into being by the part of the imputation. Once there was a conference, and the keynote speaker was a scholar from Sri Lanka, a bright, really a top-notch scholar, and he has many students. And he was given the keynote speech in a university conference, and he was they were talking about the liberation, nirvana, and from Theravada Buddhist tradition point of view, he was explaining it, and then we're talking about the 12 links of dependent origination, the name and form, the body and the mind, and where's the self? The Buddha said, anatta, selflessness. The self is not there, only the body and the mind. If the self is not there, then the question arises, what transmigrates to the next life? Then in fact, he's the one who brought this question up, saying that, so this question is there if on the one hand, there's no self. Everything's nature, emptiness and selflessness. There's no self. But then the body and mind, then what goes to the next birth? Without the next birth, how can you account for achieving nirvana? Nirvana, if it takes some lifetimes. So he said that then maybe we have to identify the mind, mind as the one who is achieving enlightenment, because the self is not there. This is what he said. Then I realized how fortunate we are that we met with the Nalanda tradition, where all these traditions, there's a body and mind, but the self does not exist as the object from the object, but it exists by the power of the projection, by the mind. And on that level, things exist, we have to live there. So this is what is presented in Pramanavartika, and of course in great detail in Madhyamika Avatar. In Pramanavartika, that is explained. So this concept of projection by the power of the mind and still existing, that is totally non-existent in the non-Buddhist traditions, particularly in the classical Indian non-Buddhist traditions. Now, in the Western philosophy, yes, there are some philosophers, they talk about imitation. Yes, it is there. But in the classical Indian traditions, no, this is totally exists means something 100% from the object. Okay. So the answer given here is that stanza 139, without having identified the object of negation. So there, what the ordinary being's perception, within that we have to go into the nuanced perception of, say, the nuance, be able to distinguish the nuanced reality there in the perception of ordinary people. There are two things happening in the ordinary person's mind. Oh, there's a flower there. Okay, there's a flower there. Or if you do good, if you study well, then you can pass the exam. That's a fact. There's nothing wrong in it. But if you study well objectively, then objectively you will pass the exam. That is wrong. If you study well, you will pass the exam. That is right. So we have to identify. We are not to just consolidate these two together, all together, and see as one. This is when we go wrong. So we have to tease apart the two, that study well and you will pass the exam. That's fine. There's nothing wrong in it. Then objectively study well and objectively you will pass the exam. This is wrong. So we have to separate the two and reject one side and don't reject both. Don't reject, or for example, say, okay, I'm hungry, I have to eat food. Don't reject food. Eat or reject objective food. So for that matter, we have to identify what is to be negated and what is not to be negated. This distinction must be made. So it says, without having identified the object of negation, which is imputation, say object of negation, objective reality, this is just mentally imputed. Mentally imputed is just imaginary. It is non-existent altogether. Mental imputation here is non-existent, simply mental contrivance, what the mental contrives. So this is to be negated and not the, for example, the food, nirvana, karma. This is not to be rejected. Objective karma is to be rejected. So we have to identify object negation so well, pertaining to the cognition happening in the ordinary person's mind. Absence of that object cannot be apprehended. Saying that, okay, there are two versions there in this. First, I'm going to explain this. If you don't understand what is to be, if you don't identify object negation well, then the emptiness of that object of negation cannot be posited well. This is one understanding. Another understanding is that if you don't see the emptiness of the object, then you cannot see the emptiness of the non-object. Okay, this is another, there are two explanations there. Without having identified the object Object means if you don't identify the object, and if you don't see the emptiness of this object, then the emptiness of non-object cannot be seen. In other words, if you don't see the emptiness of the impermanent phenomena, you cannot see the emptiness of the permanent phenomena. This is another very standard explanation. There are two explanations here. Therefore, whatever is a false object lacks entity, which clearly indicates its falsity. Meaning that falsity here means, yes, the flower does exist, but it doesn't exist as truly. It doesn't, because the true existence is rejected. When the true existence is rejected, what's left? False existence is there. So you see that the flowers fall, everything is deceptively real. All, say all conventional reality, they are deceptively real. They are not truly real. So on the part, even though it is deceptively real, the flower exists. It's not that when you say the flower to be the truly real is rejected, then the flower is rejected. No, flower is not rejected. But as for the samkhyas, whatever is perceived by the ordinary people, they say is not valid. You have to reject it. So this is the difference. From samkhya's point of view, ordinary people are not reliable. Whatever they say, don't just rely on this, because what they say is wrong. Whereas the Madhyamikas would say that what the ordinary people say, there are two. We have to separate all what they talk. Say, okay, be kind and you'll be happy. Be kind, you're happy. This is not to be negated. You have to identify what is to be negated well. Be objectively kind and you will be objectively happy. So that is to be rejected. Okay, now the 140, I like to give an example. With the example, you will understand. Otherwise, it's a little confusing, this part, 140. 140, let's say that okay, let's say that let's say that you don't have a pet dog. You don't have a pet dog. Then you fall asleep. And in your dream, you have a pet dog. And then the pet dog dies. And you feel so sad. Okay, how many you can say that, yes, this is possible? Raise hands. Very good. Okay. Now, I'll say that what makes you sad? What makes you sad in the dream? Because your pet dog dies. Your pet dog dies. So that means, is it that somebody has hidden the pet dog or the pet dog died? If somebody has hidden the pet dog, you don't have to worry too much. Just, tell the person that please give back my pet dog. But if the pet dog dies, then that it really make you sad. So the fact that why you are lamenting, why you are in grief, is because the presence of the pet dog was contradicted by the absence of the pet dog in the dream. How many of you agree with me, raise hands? Okay. Do you agree with me that when you wake up, the presence of the pet dog was faulty? Right? It was a dream. And the absence of the pet dog in the dream, there's also a dream. That's also faulty. You're getting it? Okay. So the point is that, say, this is how, this sound, then say, oh, my pet dog came back. You're very happy. No, my pet dog died. You're very sad. And you wake up. You're freed from having the pet dog and not having the pet dog. You're free from both. So likewise, say in the dream, say that you are helping say there's a person suffering, and the person suffering, or okay, let's say in your dream, say there's a person suffering and you are helping the person. And in the dream, you go home and you see your mother, and then your mother was a little slow in giving you food or whatever. And then you start shouting at your mother. Right? Okay. So there, say, on the one hand, you are helping somebody there, which is so generous, so kind. And number two, you are shouting at your mother. This is very unkind. When you wake up, shouting at the mother, which is so unkind, you regret in the dream, that's also faulty. And serving this, the sick person, that's also part of the dream. You wake up. So say within the dream, you meet with a sick person, and then just ignoring the person, and then the making the situation worse, creating more problem on the sick person, that is non-virtuous. And in the dream, the sick person, you're assisting the sick person, this is virtuous. And the third category, you wake up. You wake up. You wake up, you see that even the sick person that I'm attending, this is also a dream. And I'm just creating more problem to the sick person, it's also a dream. I'm helping the sick person, it's also a dream. You are liberated from both when you wake up. Okay, this is a very important concept. So let's see, with this in mind, 140. Thus, upon the death of a child in a dream, the conceptual thought, he does not exist, is a hindrance to thinking of his existence. Say, in the dream, you have your child, and then the child dies. Then they say, oh, he does not exist. So that is a hindrance. The conceptual, he does not exist is a hindrance to the he exists. When you feel that he exists, there's a feeling of ease. But this ease is lost because that he exists is being hindered by seeing that he doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. Okay. And yet that the child doesn't exist is false. Even the death of the child is also deceptive. Death of the child doesn't exist, that hinders hinders meaning that this opposition to believing the child is existent after death. So that is believing the child to be the existence after death, that is being rejected by the no, the child is not there, it is not present, it is absent. So this is rejected. When you wake up, even this mind which sees that that is not true, the child is not existent, it is non-existent, even that mind is also seen as faulty, it is also a dream. Okay, so that is this concept just seen. And meanwhile, as we explain this, it's very important for us that okay, if that is the case, then where is compassion? When you wake up, the person, people to whom you are helping, even that's a possible dream, then your compassion stops, just as the anger stops, your compassion also stops. Okay, this is the very important point to keep in mind. If somebody is purely going for personal liberation, then that is good enough. A compassion part, you don't have to focus. You just meditate on how everything is dream. You wake up and the agitation stops. This is what you're seeking. Whereas for the Bodhisattvas, yes, this question is so important. What happens to compassion? Where is compassion now? If you wake up to see that even your virtues also dream-like, then you stop doing the virtues. Where is your compassion? Okay, this question. For this, what we need to keep in mind is that again, there's a nuance there. There's a nuance there. We have to see this nuance. That when you wake up, you are freed from the believing things to be real. You are free from that. You are not disconnected from the sentient beings. You are disconnected from belief that the sentient beings are true. sentient beings are object real. That is what you are freed from. And let's say the sentient beings are there. Sentient beings are not truly real, but they exist. How they exist? They exist subjectively. Because upon you waking up, again you project, sentient beings are there, your projection is there. And what you project, that you project it, say the efficaciously. What you project is not just imaginary. We already made the distinction between what is imaginary. All projections can be divided into all existence are the projections, all projections are not existence. This is what we said yesterday. So with this in mind, your projections are valid. Your projections are valid, which means that what you project as sentient beings, they operate, they are suffering. The sentient beings, they are like dream. Their suffering is also like dream. They are going through a dreamless suffering. Because of this, they don't feel like to have the dreamlike suffering. So it is our dreamlike responsibility to remove the dreamlike suffering, to make the dreamlike happiness to the sentient beings. This is a job. Okay. Okay, we'll stop here for today. One or two questions if you have. One or two questions. Raise hands, please, hands. Leorala.
I don't know if we can relate to it now, but I understand, I think, and accept the reasoning in stanza 139 and 140, but I don't really see it as a good answer to the argument of the not being reliable, not relying on the word, on the common person. It seems to me that this argument, when brought by Madhyamika, when it's brought by Madhyamika, that sometimes they can rely on the word and sometimes not. It's not very strong, and we can do without it. But I don't really see it as a valid. I don't understand it as a valid reasoning.
Okay. Let's say the Leorala. Let's say that. Okay. If you are a positive, COVID positive, don't mix with other people. This is what the non-philosophers can see. Even non-philosophers ordinary people will say this. Yeah, the non-philosopher doctors will say this, advise us. And this advice, is it legible or not legible? Yes. Is this reliable or not reliable? It's very reliable. Okay. So whereas, okay, on the don't mix with objectively existent the other people, all right? Don't mix with the stay isolated, objectively stay isolated. Don't mix with the objectively existence of other people. And given that you're already exposed to the Madhyamika philosophy and you accept that, not only accept that, you know, to a great extent, you have conviction in this. So would you be happy with the second statement or not?
Yes.
The second statement.
Don't mix
don't mix with the objectively existent other people.
There are not such people, so I won't be mixed with them.
No, what I'm saying, I'm just creating the story.
Yes.
The first story is real. First part is very real, that the doctors who are not philosophers will say that you're COVID positive, don't mix with other people. Stay quarantined. Is this legible or not?
Yeah.
This is legible. But for the Samkhyas would say that all what the ordinary people say is not legible. This is the Samkhya's version. Whereas the Prasangika would distinguish the two. One part is legible, one part is not legible. So we have to distinguish which is legible, which is not legible. For that matter, we have to identify what the Prasangika says as not legible. That involves the object of negation. So we have to identify object of negation so well, which is different from what is legible concepts. Legible concepts are not to be negated. objective existence, which the ordinary people believe to be existent, is to be rejected. Whereas for Samkhyas, there's no such distinction. Whatever ordinary people say, this is not legible. And this extreme. And you may think that, oh no, they may not say like this. They may not say like this. Only when you meet with those scholars, then you will realize that, yes, they say like this. Why I'm saying this is these things are really, His Holiness Dalai Lama encourages people that now that the Tibetans, why do we have to study non-Buddhist Chinese systems on the basis of the materials you find in the Buddhist Chinese systems? Now here in India, they are all the non-Buddhist Chinese system, the Chinese holders alive, living here. We can go to study with them, study from them, and then see if what you have studied in your text makes sense. This is very good.
The thing is that I disagree with the Samkhya, but when they rely on the Prasangika's view, and say, you yourself say it, like for example, when the Chandrakirti refutes Chittamatra, when he says, I'm willing to accept outer existence of object because I don't mind, and I go with the word. This is a confusing example. They have other arguments which are good, like stanza 139 and 140, but the Chittamatra sounds more reliable when they say we don't find anything out there, so there's not the only appearance. And the Madhyanikas say, no, I don't mind. There is no objective existence out there, but I don't mind admitting that there is appearance, that there is object out there. The argument, they've got enough arguments. This argument is not so. That's why the Samkhya can use it against them. And what they say, ultimately, it doesn't work. And objective. And
Okay. So, Leora, let's say that the Prasangika's rejection of the Chittamatra. So there, when the answer was given by Prasangika saying that I don't mind accepting external reality, and Chittamatra giving reasons to reject the external reality, and you see the Prasangika, what they are saying, there's a little bit of the uneasiness coming in your mind.
Only for this reasoning, because I'm willing to. The world sees it as external. You have other reasonings which I accept, but the word is not a criteria because we're babies.
Okay, Leora, I understand it. This is extremely important point. I understand it. Okay, let's put it like this. I went through the same journey. Let's put it like this. In fact, just recently, I was, once in a while, I give my report of the Nalanda Master's course, Nalanda Diploma course, what we're doing, what kind of teaching is happening, to my teacher, Venerable Geshe Bhante Thapa Rinpoche. And he's so keen to know, what's going around in Tibet House. So I give this report to him because he's a brilliant scholar, a philosopher, and a practitioner. And he'll be so happy to see that this teaching of the wisdom and compassion is spreading. So I give this report and he's so happy. So he asked me, okay, Dorji, you tell me. So how do you explain the object negation to your students? This is what my teacher asked me. And then I said that, no, in fact, what I'm sharing with the participants of the Tibet programs, it can be totally wrong. I'm not at all, because I'm talking to my teacher. How can I, get and they say they give the teachings to my teacher? So I said, no, I don't know anything. But whatever I heard from my teacher yourself, this is what I'm just mimicking. This is what I'm doing. And he said, yes, how do you do? Tell me. And then I said, okay, since that my teacher, you are in a way like forcing me, cornering me to say something. If I don't say, I know that you'll be very upset. So I just started to say that the first object negation, I don't identify object negation directly. I begin with two questions. The first question is, do things exist? If you say no, empty, this is nihilism. Only if you say yes, everything exists, outside, inside, everything exists. Only if you say this, then you are entitled to listen to the second question. Do things exist objectively? If the answer is yes, you fall into absolutism. If you say no, then you are in a proper track towards emptiness. So how we began is the first question, do things exist? Outside, inside, I came from outside. I came from outside. Nowadays, I don't go out at all because of the COVID-19. That's all very true. In fact, I never went out of Delhi for the last 2 years. That's very true. I was also always inside Delhi. Liorala, that's for sure, 100%. Even if the most brilliant Chittamatra comes, I can defend this position that I'm inside Delhi for the last 2 years. I never went out of Delhi. Sometimes I go out of my room, but not out of Delhi, right? Sometimes I was outside my room. From outside, when I feel the mosquitoes coming, then I come inside my room. Inside, outside, they're all there. Mosquitoes are more outside the room, not inside the room. These are all the realities. You have to acknowledge these realities. Only if you acknowledge these realities, then the next question is, do they exist objectively? Then the answer is no, nothing exists objectively. If nothing exists objectively, what is left now? What is left now? Because things are operating. Where is that operating? All these things are operating on the mere perception. That's it. So therefore, on the mere perception, what you said, yes, things are operating, this should be there. Should be there, which means outside, inside. Outside there are more mosquitoes, inside less mosquitoes. I did not go out of Delhi at all for the last 2 years. This is all valid. This is all validly operating on this conventionality. So therefore, this is how, this is in fact a question asked by Acharya Chandragiri himself. If nothing intrinsically is there, what is there? This question. So mere conventionality is there. What is a mere conventionality? In the mere conventionality, people discuss that, oh, okay, I came from, say, one time, there's one, the Russian girl, there's one girl who came to see me in the peak of Delhi cold. And she said that, it's so cold. I said, you came from Russia. Here it's just 6 degrees centigrade. And in Russia it's -20. And what she said? She said that here in your house, inside, outside, both is cold. So that's inside, outside there. That's true. In Russia, in her house, outside is cold, inside is warm. Here in my place, outside, inside, both cold. That's true. We cannot deny this reality. So the undeniable reality is there. This is how the conventional world accepts norms. And then on that basis, reject objectivity. What is left? The pure subjectivity is left. Good. Okay, there's one. Okay, if now in 7 minutes time, I have the next class. The people are waiting there in the what is that, waiting hall? WebEx waiting hall. They're waiting there. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll do the quick, the Heart Sutra mantra. Teatha Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisattva Teatha Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate bodhisvatyata Om gate gate Paragate Parasamgate bodhisvaha. Okay, see you next week.
להתראות.
Thank you,
Thank you
Geshe.
very much, Geshe, for this
Thank you,
precious
Val.
and profound teaching. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you, Tibet House, for assisting us and co-hosting. See you all next time.
Thank you,
Thank
Tomer.
you. Thank you so much. יאקי, יש המשך איתך בשתיים?
כן, מה השעה אצלכם?
עכשיו 1:25 בערך, פלוס מינוס?
זה אומר עוד חצי שעה בערך?
אתה...
35 דקות.
כן, מתי שתגידו. מתי שתגיד.
יאללה. מה שנוח, אפשר עוד חצי שעה, אפשר עוד שעה, מה שנוח לכם. חצי שעה או שעה, מה אתם אומרים?
שעה.
שעה.